I want to bring in on this broadcast Mr. Pinaki Mishra, BJD MP, who also spoke in Parliament today on the Delhi Services Bill. Mr. Mishra, good evening. Thank you for joining us here at 6 p.m. Prime. A few moments ago, sir, we played a few highlights, really, of what several parliamentarians said, including you. Now, very often when you heard what the opposition said, they kept questioning the Delhi Services Bill and questioning Parliament's legislative competence. You had a reply to that. Can you just repeat that for our viewers now?
I think the opposition, when they spoke about legislative competence, it was more political rather than legal, because paragraph 95 of the May judgment, the Constitution Bench judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, clearly says that however, if Parliament enacts a law granting executive power on any subject which is within the domain of NCTD, the executive power of the Lieutenant Governor shall be modified to the extent as provided in that law. So clearly, the court therefore felt that Parliament had the legislative competence to enact a law at some point in time in future, and that would then be the modified law. So therefore, today it was only for introduction. At the introduction stage, Rule 72 proviso of the Lok Sabha Conduct of Business Rules says that you can object to the introduction of a bill on grounds of legislative competence, that Parliament does not have the competence to pass legislation. Now, that is clearly belied by the Honorable Supreme Court's observation in para 95, number one. Number two, the government of the National Capital Region of Delhi filed a writ petition, as you know, in the Supreme Court, which is written 678 of 2023. On the 20th of July 2023, a three-judge bench headed by the Honorable Chief Justice wrote a 7-page order actually admitting that and sending it to the Constitution Bench for further hearing. And there a stay was prayed for of the ordinance. The stay was rejected, expressly rejected. So now once the stay on that is rejected, to say that Parliament cannot legislate, now that's a political argument. So my point was, you can't object to the introduction. How you vote later is really, as per your the dictate of your political party and its particular position that you've taken in the country's polity. But the Biju Janata Dal, of course, has taken the stand that we would support this for a number of reasons. Number one being that the Supreme Court has not granted a stay. The matter is pending before a Constitution Bench. Let the Constitution Bench decide finally. There's no problem on that. But in the interim, looking to the fact that Delhi there's a peculiar situation in Delhi, being the national capital, with law and order being paramount importance, police being in the hands of the central government. Therefore, if the government has brought out something which the Supreme Court itself said can be done by the government and would not be, outside the purview of its legislative competence, then you can't today object to its introduction. Then, of course, it's, up to the government. If they have the numbers in Parliament, they will pass it.
Sure. Mr. Mishra, I must say that especially to the first part of your statement, a comment came to my mind on social media which said, thank God we have lawyers in Parliament as well. But focusing on your argument, sir, that stemmed from political reasons as well, where you said that, look, we've kept in mind what's happened in the Supreme Court, and then we've gone ahead and taken this stand. Politically speaking, there will be a lot of focus on the BJD stand, whether this translates to support for the BJP, why we've chosen to back the BJP. I'm sure you recognize what really this means for the Delhi government and how it really cripples them.
Look, as far as the politics of the BJP government at the center and the BJD government in the state is concerned, we fight them tooth and nail on the ground level. But, my chief minister is someone, Mr. Naveen Patnaik is someone who's now in his 5th term, going into a 6th term, hopefully in 2024. He's not someone who's needlessly adversarial with the center. He's never been. Even when the UPA was in government, on a number of issues, we supported the UPA. But on a number of issues, we opposed the UPA. Similarly, with the NDA government, for instance, on the farm laws, we opposed the government. We felt that it was not in the interest of farmers. So it's not as if we've given them a blank check. Very often we oppose, but it's all issue-based. And I believe that, particularly on this as well as on the no confidence, for instance, where again we have taken an in principle stand that today a no confidence is not only just unwarranted, but is actually uh, fairly, how shall I put it? It's useless because number one, the country should speak in one voice. That's what Naveen Patnaik ji feels. On day one, when Mr. Amit Shah ji held that meeting, all-party meeting, my mandate was that speak in one voice. The
Okay.
whole, all the parties should speak in one voice and let the people of Manipur feel that the whole country is behind them. This is not a fractious issue. This is not a partisan issue.
Sure.
Everybody is behind them, and we are all keen that resolution is swiftly found. So
But, you know,
towards that end,
sure.
therefore we are with the government on that. Now
Mr.
today to
Mishra,
bring a no confidence only to drag the Prime Minister to Parliament, I believe the opposition has laid a trap to which they will fall themselves. Because the Prime Minister will come on the 10th, he'll make a fiery 2-hour speech, blow the opposition case to smithereens and walk away triumphantly. So it just doesn't make sense. And why would you block Parliament? We could have done legislative business because blocking Parliament means you handing the government the initiative on a platter. The government is always happy to avoid Parliament. Let's face it. No government wants to face Parliament. So if they can pass legislation in the din, if they can pass laws in the din without any debate, without discussion, ministers are happiest. So you're really falling into a government trap by disrupting Parliament because government business will go on. They will rule either the ordinance rule or the legislative route. They are not going to stop. The country won't stop. Governance won't stop. It's just Parliament stops, and that is bad for democracy. It's bad for members of Parliament who have struggled to reach the Lok Sabha. It's not easy. I mean, I fought 6 elections. I'm in my 4th term in the Lok Sabha. I know what it takes to fight the Lok Sabha election, win and come. So, and people want their issues agitated.
very true.
So, whoever is taking this decision to block Parliament, I believe, is not doing themselves a service. You're cutting your nose to spite your face.
You made a very, very interesting point there on what's happening in Parliament for the last 9 days. My final question to you, however, Mr. Pinaki Mishra, is what you've said is very familiar to the script that most BJP leaders are also talking about right now, or what's happening in Parliament, as well as these bills that are currently being debated in different forms in Parliament. Is the BJD on its course to joining the NDA in 2024, sir, or is it too early?
No question of joining the NDA. That's not even an issue. Whoever comes to power at the center, Naveen Patnaik ji believes that there has to be cooperation and partnership with the center. In a true federal polity, there has got to be cooperative federalism, which means that you can't needlessly keep fighting on every petty small issue and just be adversarial all the time with the central government. That's pointless. Yes, on issues we may have a difference of opinion. We will articulate it firmly. We will differ. We will vote, in the opposite direction. That's all possible, and that has happened in the past. But we will not needlessly on issues where bipartisanship is called for, or
Okay.
where one voice is called for. We are not going to become fractious and needlessly fight with the government merely to say that we are not with the government. That doesn't make sense to Mr. Patnaik. He believes Odisha's interest is number one. Today, for instance, the offshore mineral bill
Sure.
has come. Now we commend that bill because it's in our interest. It'll give us massive royalties, as it will give royalty to Karnataka, to Andhra, to Goa, to many other
Yeah.
coastal states. So therefore, when government brings this kind of beneficial legislation to Parliament, then it's our job to support it. Not
It's a very interesting stand, Mr. Pinaki Mishra, and I think the comment that you've made on Delhi Services Bill is something that I'm sure the opposition is also taking note of. Thank you very much, Mr. Mishra, for joining us here on India Today with your perspective and making clear for us exactly what the BJD stand is. You've heard it here on India Today. The BJD is saying very clearly that as far as the Delhi Services Bill is concerned, the no trust motion is concerned, they will back the government. And that is essentially a game changer numbers-wise for the government in the Rajya Sabha.